Have you ever noticed how two people can face the exact same situation, but their outcomes couldn't be more different? One crumbles under the weight of the challenge, blaming everything and everyone. The other rises, adapts, and finds a way forward. What's the difference? It's not education. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's a habit. The first of 7 life-changing habits that separate the reactive from the effective. It's the habit of being proactive. The habit of proactivity. To be proactive means more than just taking initiative. It means recognizing that you are responsible for your life. Between every stimulus and every response, there is a space. And in that space lies your greatest human power, the power to choose. Reactive people hand that power away. They allow moods, circumstances, and other people to dictate their behavior. Proactive people claim that power. They respond according to their values, not their feelings. Consider this. You're stuck in traffic, already late for work. A reactive person slams the horn, yells at the cars ahead, and carries frustration into the office. A proactive person takes a breath, accepts what they cannot control, and uses the time to listen to an audiobook, call a loved one, or plan their day. The situation is the same. The response is a choice. The circle of concern versus the circle of influence. Covey describes 2 circles we all carry. The circle of concern includes all the things we worry about but cannot directly control. The economy, the weather, world events, other people's choices. The circle of influence includes the things we can directly affect. Our attitudes, decisions, and behaviors. Reactive people focus on the circle of concern. They complain about politics, gossip about others, or dwell on problems they can't fix. Their energy is wasted and their influence shrinks. Proactive people focus on the circle of influence. They ask, what can I do today? What's within my control? And as they act consistently on those things, their influence grows. This simple shift changes everything. Let me tell you a story. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, endured one of the darkest chapters in human history. In the concentration camps, nearly everything was stripped away: freedom, family, dignity. But Frankl discovered one thing that could never be taken from him: the freedom to choose his attitude. In his book Man's Search for Meaning, he wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." Even in the face of unimaginable suffering, Frankl chose to focus on meaning, on serving others, on hope. That is the essence of proactivity. The language of proactivity. Your words reveal your mindset. Reactive people say, "There's nothing I can do. That's just the way I am. He makes me so mad." They won't allow that. Proactive people say, "Let's find a solution. I choose to react differently. I can control how I respond. I'll make it happen." Listen to your own language. Are you giving away your power or claiming it? How do you begin living first habit? Notice your choices. Pause before reacting. Ask, am I choosing this response or is it choosing me? Shift your focus. Spend less time on things you can't control and more time acting on what you can. Change your language. Replace "I can't" with "I choose." Replace "they make me" with "I decide." Start small. Pick one area of your life where you've been reactive, maybe at work, maybe at home, and practice taking ownership. Proactivity is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Why this habit comes first. You might be wondering, why does this book start with proactivity? Because without it, the other 6 habits won't stick. If you don't believe you have the power to choose your response, you'll never design your future, prioritize your time, build healthy relationships, or sustain growth. Proactivity is the foundation. It's the habit that transforms you from a victim of circumstance to a creator of destiny. Reflection. Pause for a moment. Think about your own life. Where have you been reactive lately? Is it at work, blaming your boss for your lack of progress? At home, blaming your partner for your unhappiness? In your health, blaming genetics for your choices? What would happen if, instead of blaming, you chose responsibility? Instead of complaining, you acted? Instead of waiting, you moved? That shift, that single habit, could change your trajectory forever. Being proactive is not about ignoring problems. It's about owning your power to face them. And when you step into that power, you become unstoppable. Because the truth is this: life doesn't just happen to you. Life happens for you when you choose your response. That is the first habit of highly effective people. And it is the gateway to every other habit that follows. The second habit: begin with the end in mind. Imagine this: it's years from now. You've lived your life, achieved many things, and today is your funeral. Family, friends, colleagues, people who knew you best, gather to remember you. One by one they stand to speak. Your children talk about the kind of parent you were. Your friends share stories of the kind of companion you were. Your coworkers describe the professional you became. Now pause. Ask yourself honestly, what do you want them to say? Do you want them to remember you as kind? Disciplined? Someone who chased success at the expense of everything else? Or someone who balanced achievement with deep relationships? This exercise may feel uncomfortable, but it's powerful. Because when you begin with the end in mind, you design your life with intention instead of drifting through it. The power of vision. Habit 2 is all about vision. It's about living today with tomorrow in mind. It's about making decisions not based on impulse or habit, but on values and purpose. Without vision, you may work hard, achieve goals, even become successful by society's standards, only to discover you climbed the wrong ladder. But with vision, every step, every choice, every effort leads toward a life you actually want. Writing your personal mission statement. One of the most practical ways to begin with the end in mind is to write a personal mission statement. Think of it like a compass. It guides your decisions when life feels overwhelming. Ask yourself, what values do I want to live by? What do I want to contribute to my family, my work, my community? What legacy do I want to leave behind? Your mission statement doesn't have to be perfect or final. It's a living document, something you can refine over time. But once written, it becomes a touchstone. When opportunities arise, you ask, does this align with my mission? When challenges hit, you ask, what choice honors my values? Suddenly, life feels less random. Because you're not just reacting, you're directing. Let me share a story. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy stood before Congress and declared a bold vision. Before this decade is out, we will land a man on the moon and return him safely to the Earth. That single statement galvanized a nation. It gave scientists, engineers, and astronauts a clear end in mind. Every experiment, every project, every decision was measured against that goal. And in 1969, Neil Armstrong took that giant leap for mankind. This is the power of vision. When you begin with the end in mind, you align energy, resources, and action in a single direction, and miracles happen. Roles and goals. Another way to live habit 2 is to identify your roles. You are not just one thing. You may be a parent, a friend, a professional, a community member, a spiritual being. Each role carries responsibilities. Each role deserves goals. When you define your roles and then set goals for each, you live with balance. For example, as a parent, I will spend intentional, quality time with my children daily. As a professional, I will continue learning and adding value to my team. As an individual, I will protect my health through exercise and rest. When you neglect one role, imbalance creeps in. But when you begin with the end in mind in every role, your life aligns with wholeness. Imagination versus memory. Covey makes a profound point. Humans are unique in that we can live not just from memory but from imagination. Memory pulls from the past. Imagination creates the future. When you begin with the end in mind, you exercise imagination. You picture a future not yet real and then design your present to build it. Reactive people live from memory, repeating patterns, reliving mistakes. Proactive people live from imagination, daring to envision a life beyond their current reality. Which are you choosing? Daily alignment. So how do you apply this habit practically? Define your vision. Write down what you want your life to look like in the long run. Clarify your values. Decide what principles you'll never compromise. Create a mission statement. Summarize your vision and values into a guiding statement. Set goals for each role. Balance personal, professional, and relational commitments. Align your daily choices. Each day ask, Does this action serve my end in mind? The magic happens when your daily actions mirror your deepest vision. Reflection exercise. Pause right now and think. If your life ended today, what would your story be? Would it be one of drifting or of direction? Would it be one of reaction or intention? Now imagine the story you want written. The eulogy you'd be proud to hear. The legacy you'd be honored to leave. That vision is your compass. That is your end in mind. Why this habit matters. Habit 1, being proactive, is about choice. Habit 2, beginning with the end in mind, is about direction. Without direction, proactivity can lead you anywhere. You may climb mountains only to realize you climbed the wrong one. But with an end in mind, every step is aligned. You don't just live busy. You live on purpose. And that, ultimately, is the difference between a life of noise and a life of meaning. The third habit, put first things first. Imagine you're handed a glass jar, a pile of big rocks, a pile of small pebbles, and a handful of sand. The challenge is to fit everything into the jar. If you start with the sand, then add the pebbles, the big rocks won't fit. But if you put the big rocks in first, then the pebbles, and finally the sand, everything fits perfectly. This is the essence of habit 3, put first things first. It's about deciding what your big rocks are, the most important value-driven priorities in your life, and putting them first before everything else. The tyranny of the urgent. We live in a world that constantly screams for our attention. Emails, texts, notifications, endless demands. It's easy to spend entire days reacting to the urgent, only to realize at night that you never touched the important. Covey describes this with his famous time management matrix. Quadrant 1. Urgent and important crises, pressing problems, deadlines. Quadrant 2. Not urgent but important, planning, prevention, relationship building, personal growth. Quadrant 3. Urgent but not important, interruptions, some calls, some meetings. Quadrant 4. Not urgent and not important, social media scrolling, mindless entertainment, trivial time wasters. Most people live in quadrants 1 and 3. They're either putting out fires or reacting to other people's priorities. But the truly effective people? They focus on quadrant 2. That's where vision lives. That's where habits are built. That's where the future is created. Let me share a story. An executive once told Covey, "I'm drowning in urgent tasks. My day is full, but I don't feel effective." Covey asked him, "When do you plan? When do you invest in your team, your health, your family?" The executive replied, "I don't have time." To which Covey said, "That's like saying you don't have time to put gas in your car because you're too busy driving." The truth is, if you don't make time for the important, you'll always be controlled by the urgent. Identifying your big rocks. So, what are your big rocks? Maybe it's your health, because without it, everything else crumbles. Maybe it's your relationships, because success is empty if you lose the people you love. Maybe it's your personal growth, because if you're not growing, you're shrinking. Write them down. Be specific. And then look honestly at your calendar. Do these priorities show up in your daily schedule, or are they constantly pushed aside? Because here's the truth. If you don't schedule your priorities, someone else will schedule them for you. Discipline and integrity. Habit 3 requires discipline, the discipline to say no to the urgent so you can say yes to the important. But it's more than just discipline. It's integrity. Integrity means aligning your actions with your deepest values. It means living your mission statement, not just writing it. Anyone can talk about priorities. Few actually live them. But when you do, something shifts. Your life begins to feel less chaotic, more intentional, more aligned. Practical steps to put first things first. Identify your roles. List out the different roles you play: parent, professional, friend, individual. Set weekly goals. For each role, set 1 or 2 meaningful goals that align with your mission. Plan your week. Schedule these goals first before filling in urgent tasks. Protect your time. Treat these commitments as sacred. No excuses, no last-minute swaps. Review daily. Each day, revisit your goals and ask, am I putting first things first? The courage to say no. One of the hardest parts of this habit is learning to say no. No to distractions. No to endless meetings. No to things that look urgent but don't matter. Every no to something unimportant is a yes to what truly matters. Think about it. How often have you said yes to someone else's demand while sacrificing your own priorities? Highly effective people understand this truth. You cannot do everything, but you can do what matters most. Reflection: your calendar as a mirror. Want to know your real priorities? Look at your calendar. If your calendar is filled with everyone else's requests, then your life belongs to them. If your calendar reflects your values, time with family, personal growth, meaningful work, then your life belongs to you. Your calendar is not just a schedule. It's a mirror of your values. Why this habit matters. Habit 1 gave you the power of choice. Habit 2 gave you the power of vision. Habit 3 gives you the power of execution. Because what good is vision if you never live it? When you put first things first, you bridge the gap between dreaming and doing. You stop drifting. You start designing. And the result is a life not just of busyness, but of balance, focus, and fulfillment. Fourth habit: think win-win. Picture this. Two business partners are negotiating a deal. One is determined to squeeze out every last cent of profit, leaving the other with scraps. The deal goes through, but resentment brews. Soon, trust erodes, the partnership falls apart, and both lose far more than they gained. Now imagine another scenario. Two partners approach the same negotiation, but this time their mindset is different. They ask, how can we both win? The result? A deal that benefits both, strengthens trust, and builds a foundation for long-term collaboration. This is the essence of fourth habit: think win-win. Scarcity versus abundance mindset. At its core, win-win is a belief system. It's the difference between a scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset. Scarcity says, there's only so much to go around. If you win, I lose. Abundance says, there's enough for everyone. If you win, I can win too. Scarcity leads to competition, envy, and short-term thinking. Abundance leads to cooperation, trust, and long-term success. Think about it in everyday life. Scarcity whispers, if she gets the promotion, I won't. Abundance answers, if she grows, the whole team grows, and my opportunity will come. Which voice do you usually listen to? Win-lose, lose-win, and lose-lose. Covey describes several common paradigms people fall into. Win-lose, I win, you lose. This is the competitive mindset. It may work in sports, but in relationships and business, it leaves scars. Lose-win, I lose, you win. This is the people-pleaser mindset. It avoids conflict, but sacrifices self-respect. Lose-lose, if I can't win, you won't either. This is the mindset of revenge. Both parties end up worse off. Win-win, I win, you win. This is the mindset of mutual benefit. It seeks solutions where everyone leaves better off. The truth? Only win-win builds lasting trust and sustainable relationships. Story: the generous negotiator. There's a story of a company leader known for his negotiation skills. Unlike others who aim to exploit weaknesses, he always looked for solutions that benefited both sides. When asked why, he said, because I don't want just one deal. I want 100 deals. And the only way to have that is if both sides walk away happy. This is why win-win is not just ethical. Strategic. Emotional bank accounts. Covey uses the metaphor of an emotional bank account to describe trust in relationships. Every time you show kindness, keep a promise, listen, or respect someone, you make a deposit. Every time you lie, break a promise, or act selfishly, you make a withdrawal. When the balance is high, the relationship is strong. You can handle disagreements without breaking trust. When the balance is low, even small issues cause conflict. Thinking win-win is about constantly making deposits. It's about valuing relationships as much as results. Practical ways to think win-win. So how do you practice this habit? Seek mutual benefit. Ask in every situation, how can both of us gain? Value relationships. Don't sacrifice trust for short-term wins. Practice empathy. Understand the other person's needs, not just your own. Be assertive. Win-win doesn't mean lose-win. Respect yourself while respecting others. Look for third alternatives. Sometimes the best solution is not your way or their way, but a new way that satisfies both. Reflection exercise. Think about your relationships. At work, do you approach negotiations with a mindset of competition or collaboration? At home, Do you seek compromise or do you push to win arguments? With friends, do you genuinely celebrate their successes or do you secretly compare yourself to them? Win-win requires maturity. It takes courage to honor your needs and consideration to honor others. But when you master it, your relationships transform. They move from fragile and conditional to strong and lasting. Why this habit matters. Habit 1 gave you choice. Habit 2 gave you vision. Habit 3 gave you focus. Habit 4 gives you harmony. Because life is not a zero-sum game. True effectiveness is not about beating others, it's about working together to create more for all. When you think win-win, you stop seeing people as obstacles or competitors. You see them as partners in creating something greater. And that mindset doesn't just change deals. It changes lives. The 5th habit: seek first to understand, then to be understood. Imagine going to a doctor with a sharp pain in your chest. Before you even finish describing your symptoms, the doctor says, "I know exactly what's wrong," scribbles a prescription and rushes you out the door. Would you trust that doctor? Of course not. Because a prescription without a proper diagnosis is malpractice. Yet this is exactly how many of us approach communication. We prescribe before we diagnose. We give advice, solutions, and opinions before we truly understand the other person. 5th habit 5 changes that. It teaches us to seek first to understand, then to be understood. The power of empathic listening. Most people don't really listen. They listen with the intent to reply, not the intent to understand. When someone shares a struggle, they're already planning their response. When someone shares a dream, they're ready with advice or judgment. When someone complains, they cut in with, "That happened to me too." This is not listening. This is waiting for your turn to talk. Empathic listening, on the other hand, is different. It's about entering the other person's world, seeing through their eyes, feeling what they feel. It's not about agreement. It's about understanding. Covey tells a story of a father frustrated with his teenage son. The father complained, "I just don't understand him. He won't listen to me." Covey replied, "If you don't understand him, why should he listen to you?" The father realized he had been so focused on being understood, on lecturing, advising, persuading, that he had never truly listened to his son's perspective. When he finally stopped and listened with empathy, the relationship shifted. The son felt valued and in turn became more open to hearing his father. Understanding creates the foundation for influence. 4 levels of listening. Most of us listen at one of 4 levels. Ignoring, not listening at all. Pretending, nodding, saying, "Aha," but not really paying attention. Selective listening, hearing only what we want to hear. Attentive listening, paying attention to words but not emotions. Empathic listening goes beyond all 4. It listens not just to words but to meaning. It listens not just to what's said but to what's unsaid. It asks, what is this person really feeling? What are they trying to communicate beneath the words? The risk of rushing to be understood. Why do we rush to be understood? Because it feels easier. Because we want to fix things quickly. Because we're convinced we already know the answer. But when we skip understanding, our advice often misses the mark. We end up solving the wrong problem. And worse, we damage trust. Think about it. How many times have you felt frustrated because someone gave you advice when all you wanted was to be heard? Practical steps to seek first to understand. Listen with your eyes and heart. Pay attention to body language and emotions, not just words. Reflect back. Paraphrase what the other person said. So you're feeling stressed because you feel unheard at work? Hold back judgment. Resist the urge to evaluate or correct right away. Ask clarifying questions. Show genuine curiosity. Can you tell me more about that? Pause before replying. Make sure the other person feels fully understood before sharing your perspective. Why understanding comes first. Here's the paradox. When people feel understood, they're more willing to understand you. Think about it. If someone truly listens to your story without judgment, without interruption, don't you naturally open up? Don't you become more receptive to what they have to say? Understanding paves the way for influence. It turns arguments into conversations, conflicts into cooperation, and strangers into friends. An architect once met with a client who wanted a new house. The client came in with a list of demands. room sizes, materials, style preferences. Instead of jumping straight into design, the architect asked, "Tell me about how you live. What's most important to you in a home?" The client talked about family dinners, quiet spaces for reading, a backyard for the kids. Only then did the architect begin sketching, and the design reflected the client's true needs, not just surface-level requests. The client later said, "You're the first professional who actually listened to me. Seek first to understand, then to be understood." Reflection exercise. Think of your most important relationships, at home, at work, with friends. Ask yourself, do I listen to understand or do I listen to reply? Do people feel safe sharing their thoughts with me or do they hold back? How much more influence would I have if people felt truly understood? The truth is, you don't build connection through perfect arguments. You build it through understanding. Why this habit matters. Habit 4 taught you to think win-win. Habit 5 teaches you the skill to achieve it. Because win-win requires trust. And trust requires understanding. When you seek first to understand, you move from being a talker to being a leader. From being a persuader to being an influencer. From being a hearer to being a listener. And that difference doesn't just change conversations. It changes lives. 6th habit, synergize. Picture this, a choir singing in harmony. Individually, each voice is strong. But together, when blended, they create something powerful. A sound that stirs the soul in ways no single singer could. That is synergy. Synergy is not just cooperation. It's creative cooperation. It's the magic that happens when differences are valued, strengths are combined, and the result is greater than anything individuals could achieve alone. Covey puts it simply, 1 + 1 can equal 3 or 10 or even 100. The myth of sameness. Many people mistakenly believe that for true harmony, everyone must think the same way. But sameness doesn't create strength. Difference does. Imagine building a team where every member has identical skills, identical experiences, identical viewpoints. Sounds comfortable, right? But such a team will stagnate. They'll miss blind spots. They'll recycle the same ideas. Synergy happens when differences come together. When one person's strength balances another's weakness. When diverse perspectives combine to create new solutions. 2 farmers were in conflict over a piece of land. Each wanted to claim it as his own. At first they argued fiercely. Each insisted on his way. Lose-lose seemed inevitable. But when they stepped back and listened, something shifted. One said, "I need this land for grazing." The other said, "I need it for crops." Finally they realized they could divide the land, part for grazing, part for planting, and share the profits. By combining their needs rather than competing, they created a solution that was better than either had imagined. That's synergy. The essence of creative cooperation. Synergy requires 3 things. Openness. A willingness to truly listen even when someone disagrees. Respect. Valuing differences instead of seeing them as threats. Courage. Bringing your own ideas to the table while staying humble enough to adapt. When these elements are present, creativity flows. People stop defending positions and start building solutions. Covey often shared an example from education. In many classrooms, students compete against each other for grades. The mindset is, if you win, I lose. But when classrooms encourage group projects where every member contributes their strengths, something changes. The shy student with strong research skills shines. The outspoken student with presentation skills carries the delivery. Together, they produce results far better than any individual effort. This is synergy at work, in school, in business, in life. Barriers to synergy. So why is synergy rare? Because ego gets in the way. Because fear of being wrong keeps people from listening. Because impatience pushes people to settle for compromise instead of creating a win-win. Compromise says, I give up a little, you give up a little. Synergy says, together we create something better than either of us imagined. The difference is enormous. Practical ways to create synergy. Seek diversity. Surround yourself with people who think differently, not just those who agree with you. Practice empathic listening. Build on habit 5. Understand others before defending your own ideas. Value differences. Instead of resisting disagreements, ask, what can I learn from this perspective? Look for third alternatives. Don't get stuck in my way or your way. Ask, what new way can we discover together? Celebrate collaboration. Acknowledge when the group achieves more than individuals could have alone. Consider the Wright brothers, Orville and Wilbur. They weren't the most educated men of their time, nor the wealthiest. But they had synergy. They balanced each other's strengths and weaknesses, constantly building on each other's ideas, constantly improving through trial and error. While others gave up, the Wright brothers synergized. And in 1903 they changed history with the first powered flight. Their achievement wasn't just the product of genius, it was the product of synergy. Reflection exercise. Think about your current environment. At work, do you collaborate or do you compete? In relationships, do you insist on your way or do you explore our way? In personal growth, do you shut out perspectives that challenge you or do you lean into them? Synergy is not easy. It requires vulnerability. It requires humility. But when you embrace it, the results can exceed your wildest expectations. Why this habit matters. Habit 4 taught you to think win-win. Habit 5 taught you to listen with empathy. Habit 6 shows you what happens when you combine those two. True synergy. Because the truth is, none of us is as smart as all of us. Alone we are limited. Together we are limitless. Synergy is the habit that transforms individuals into teams, teams into movements, and movements into revolutions. The 7th habit, sharpen the saw. Imagine trying to cut down a tree with a dull saw. You push harder. You sweat. You spend hours hacking at the trunk. Meanwhile, someone else sharpens their saw for 30 minutes, then cuts through the tree in half the time. Who is truly effective? Habit 7 is about renewal. It's about taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually so you can live all the other habits at your best. Covey calls it sharpening the saw. The 4 dimensions of renewal. To sharpen the saw, you must care for 4 key dimensions of your life. Physical renewal. This is about caring for your body through exercise, nutrition, rest, and stress management. Without physical health, your energy fades and all other habits suffer. Think of it as the foundation. Your body is the vehicle through which you live your mission. Mental renewal. This is about stimulating your mind with learning, reading, problem-solving, and creativity. Growth stops when learning stops. When you sharpen your mind, you expand your ability to innovate, adapt, and think critically. Emotional and social renewal. This involves nurturing relationships, practicing empathy, and building trust. Because no matter how successful you are, life is empty without connection. When your emotional bank accounts are full, you draw strength from your relationships. Spiritual renewal. This is about connecting with your deepest values, your higher purpose, your sense of meaning. It might be through meditation, prayer, time in nature, or service to others. Spiritual renewal keeps you centered, reminding you of the bigger picture. Together, these 4 dimensions create balance. Neglect one and the others weaken. Nourish all and you thrive. A story goes of a lumberjack who worked tirelessly, day after day, cutting trees with a dull saw. Someone suggested, "Why don't you stop and sharpen your saw?" The lumberjack replied, "I can't stop. I'm too busy cutting trees." But the truth is, by refusing to sharpen his saw, he was making his work harder and less effective. How often do we live like that lumberjack? Too busy to rest. Too busy to learn. Too busy to connect. Too busy to renew. Yet without renewal we burn out. Practical ways to sharpen the saw. Physically, commit to regular exercise you enjoy. Eat foods that fuel your body, not drain it. Prioritize rest as much as productivity. Mentally, read daily. Learn new skills. Engage in creative hobbies. Challenge your thinking with fresh perspectives. Emotionally, spend time with loved ones. Practice gratitude. Repair broken relationships where possible. Surround yourself with people who uplift you. Spiritually, set aside quiet time daily for reflection, meditation, or prayer. Reconnect with nature. Serve others. Remember, sharpening the saw isn't selfish. It's necessary. By renewing yourself, you bring more energy, wisdom, and compassion to others. Why renewal matters. Think about your phone battery. No matter how advanced the phone, without charging it dies. You are no different. Your body, mind, emotions, and spirit are your internal battery. Without renewal, you run on empty. Highly effective people understand this truth. Rest is not a waste of time. Renewal is not laziness. It's the fuel of long-term effectiveness. Integration of the 7 habits. Let's step back. Habit 1. Be proactive. You are the author of your life. Habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. Write your story with purpose. Habit 3. Put first things first. Live your priorities daily. Habit 4. Think win-win. Build relationships on mutual benefit. Habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Communicate with empathy and influence. Habit 6. Synergize. Unlock creativity through cooperation. Habit 7. Sharpen the saw. Renew yourself to sustain the journey. Together, these habits form a complete framework for personal and professional effectiveness. Reflection exercise. Ask yourself, which area of renewal am I neglecting most? Body, mind, heart, or spirit? What small practice can I begin today to sharpen that dimension? How would my life change if I consistently invested in renewal? The answers to these questions may reveal the key to unlocking your next level of growth. Closing inspiration. The 7 habits are not quick fixes. They are not tricks or hacks. They are principles, timeless truths that guide human effectiveness. And like any habit, they require practice, patience, and persistence. But the reward is worth it. Because when you internalize these habits, you don't just change your schedule. You change your life. You don't just become more productive. You become more purposeful. You don't just achieve success. You achieve significance. So pick up your saw, sharpen it daily, live the habits, and step into the life of effectiveness that awaits you.